So you're probably wondering why I'm doing Cell now instead of doing what I promised to do the last Dragon Ball Head Scratchers episode, which was how did Vegeta learn how to detect ki. Now, I was going to do that video almost right after the second episode and just upload it and stuff. But then, to double check things, I went to the manga to see just when did Vegeta start to pick up ki, just to be 100% sure. And I remembered something that kind of shot down my theory, so I'm still reworking what I think about that whole question that gets brought up a lot. How I'm going to rework my theory to fit into it. It's not looking too promising here. It could just be an Aspel, which wouldn't be weird because Dragon Ball has a lot of Aspel guys. Like, there are just some things that cannot be explained on any level whatsoever, and it's okay to admit that even for a franchise you like. But we'll see. We'll see. So, as a compensation, I've decided to do Cell. Now, Cell is one of the most popular villains in the franchise and probably one of the most popular villains in anime/manga history. He kind of embodies, he's pretty much the ultimate bad guy, if you really think about it. He has the DNA of the most powerful warriors in the universe up until this point. You know, he has Goku's DNA, Gohan's, Vegeta's, he has Piccolo's, Tenshinhan's, Yamcha's, Krillin's, and I think he has Chiaotzu's. I'm not sure about that one, but I think he has him too. And of course, he has King Cold and Frieza. Now, even with the humans still there, the humans are still pretty damn powerful at this point, especially with the likes of the Ginyu Force gone. So for all intents and purposes, these individuals I just listed are the most powerful beings in the universe, minus, you know, guys like Dabra and Beerus, Whis, but those guys are kind of extraordinary beings who aren't fully natural, I think. So from the list of mortal beings who are the strongest, these guys are essentially there. And Cell is this Frankenstein-type monster who has all their abilities. He hypothetically has all their potential, which is a whole other video that you can make, especially in light of Resurrection F, but that's not what I'm here to do. What I am here to do is to explain how Cell's transformations work. And to do this, I have to say something regarding the Android Saga. Now, when Future Trunks talks to Goku about the future, about how everyone was killed, and about when does this android threat begin, he states that the androids responsible for the destruction of the future timeline are called 19 and 20. Dr. Gero and 20 are the androids that we meet at the beginning of the Android Saga, and these guys were originally supposed to be the villains of the entire arc. However, Toriyama got a new editor at the time who really didn't like their designs. He called Gero, a wrinkly old guy and some fat clown-looking dude, I think. And so Toriyama was forced to create new villains, and he retcons Trunks' statement from being 19 and 20 to 17 and 18. And the whole 19 and 20 line you can still find in the current volumes of the manga. It hasn't been retconned like Gohan's age was, but I believe because the way Trunks' reaction is shot and how it's framed in the manga, how he's shocked to find this whole other android, I think that's what makes it kind of difficult for them to just say, oh, no, he always meant 17 and 18, so there's that. But this new editor wasn't pleased with 17, 18, or 16, and then he wanted Cell. But he wasn't pleased with Cell either. And then Toriyama, I think during the creative process, he probably decided that he was going to give himself some leeway to basically change up Cell's appearance more and more and potentially increase his power so that his editor doesn't keep getting constantly mad at him. And he was mad at Cell's imperfect form, you know, the one that really looks really bug-like and stuff, really creepy. And he hated his semi-perfect form, calling him like this big stupid-looking moron, something like that. And then finally, he was really pleased with the way Perfect Cell turned out. So the Cell/Android Saga is really editorially mandated. It feels really unnatural, which it already has a really wonky start, and then there's just 100 things that don't make any fucking sense in that arc. But that's not what I'm here to discuss. What I am here to discuss is why does Cell specifically need 17 and 18 to transform? Now, by this point in the franchise, transformations have already made themselves a pretty big staple. You know, Frieza had like 4 of them. Goku got a new one. Vegeta got a new one. Future Trunks also has a transformation. And it's not that transformations didn't exist before, but this is really the point in the franchise where they begin to really become an established trope. And I think that Toriyama, foreseeing imperfect Cell potentially not working right with his editor, and perhaps even getting notes from his editor during the creation process of Cell, he decided to give himself some leeway so he can change up his appearance and give him more and more power-ups as time progressed. And I think that you can pretty much see some forethought going into Cell, how he works, based on the way he is introduced. Like, this isn't like a thing where Cell says he needs humans to attain his perfect form. No, the second he shows up, he says, I need 17 and 18 to transform. And now, I know Toriyama isn't the most a writer with a lot of forethought. He doesn't really look that far ahead. He's kind of like a dude who just writes as he goes and then hopes to God it works out in the end, which this is the saga where that obviously starts to really fall apart. But I think that in this instance, he kind of wanted to avoid more editorial bullshit, so he put some thought into how Cell worked. And immediately when he's introduced, he says he needs 17 and 18 to transform. And for the rest of the arc, Cell operates by himself. He's off hunting 17 and 18, powering up his imperfect form so he can take them on and devour them. And in the end, he does devour them before ultimately being defeated by the Kamehameha combo of Goku and Gohan, with a little help from Vegeta in the manga and basically everybody else there in the anime. But one thing I really don't see brought up a lot, and when it does, it's not really discussed that much, is why exactly Cell needs 17 and 18. Now, Cell's growth takes a long, long time. It takes about 25 years for his imperfect form alone to be created. And in fact, Dr. Gero was so impatient with this that he basically told the supercomputer responsible for taking care of Cell's growth to gather the data he needs any time it needs it to be gathered, and basically keep growing Cell in secret while he went on to work on other projects, like building himself his own android body, working on 17, 16, and 18, and then 20, of course, and all this other stuff that later comes to fruition while the supercomputer works on Cell somewhere far away in a dark corner elsewhere. And I think that from an out universe perspective, you can already see why he needs them, because I think that Toriyama wanted to have a character who still has transformations, but he also wanted to limit the character's the way he attains the transformations, because Cell cannot just transform into his perfect form wherever he wants. He's not like Frieza, where Frieza creates lesser versions of his own body to contain his power. No, Cell is born in this inferior state, and he needs to fill certain criteria to get better and better to attain higher levels of power. And I think that Toriyama, maybe while he was designing Cell, he thought that giving this guy a certain criteria he needs to fulfill that isn't training or just powering up would create a more interesting storyline. And for a good chunk of the imperfect Cell stuff, where Cell is just running around absorbing humans to power himself up to get stronger, that's some of the best stuff of the Android saga. It's really cool to see the main villain of the arc not be this unstoppable badass just yet. He's actually far outclassed by Piccolo. He has to get into a town, absorb all the people he can, and then fuck off before Piccolo and the others find him out. And he's really more sneaky, more smart, and more cunning, sort of like Vegeta during the Namek saga, which is really damn interesting. And that's kind of what makes that imperfect Cell portion of the Cell Android arc really damn cool. So I think that Toriyama saw the potential here while he was figuring out what he was going to do with Cell, how he's going to maybe create more forms for him so his editor leaves him the fuck alone already, and he saw the potential there and he decided to run with it. Now, this is the in-universe explanation that I've come up with. I actually think that Gero could have grown Cell into his perfect form, but he knew that it would take a vastly larger amount of time for that to happen, potentially centuries even, for Cell to just keep growing and growing inside a tank and then emerge in his perfect form. And even with a android body that can potentially last forever with constant maintenance, I still think Gero would have wanted to still not wait centuries and centuries and centuries potentially to see his ultimate creation reach his perfection. And the reason why I think he picked 17 and 18 is because 17 and 18 are very heavily implied to be very problematic androids for him. And I actually think it's quite possible that Jiro knew that if he lets 17 and 18 out one day and he isn't able to control him, they will screw him over and they will kill him. And so he programs Cell to come out in his imperfect form so he can devour 17 and 18 as a form of revenge should they kill him, or perhaps just as a form of revenge so that he can pretty much, give them the middle finger while his ultimate creation is getting better and better after they potentially gave him so much trouble. It's actually very heavily implied, as I said before, that 17 and 18 are troublemakers, and he really, really didn't want them to come out until the Z Fighters basically forced his hand into it. So I think that's why Cell comes out in his imperfect form. I think that with a lot more time given for him to grow, he probably could have come out in his perfect form. Whether or not he would have been as powerful as we see him in the manga is a whole other topic I don't want to get into because that's just complete, almost baseless speculation. And I think that Jiro wanted to see Cell come out in a reasonable amount of time, and he wanted to have a way to basically tell 17 and 18 to go fuck themselves for causing him so much trouble, or potentially even killing him, which they do in both the future timeline and in the regular timeline. So, yeah, that's why I think Cell requires the transformations. I don't really understand the intricacies of Cell because 17 and 18 have infinite energy generators, so when Cell absorbs them, shouldn't he also have that, I guess? And then how do their powers stack up and give him more power? I don't know. Like, the way Cell's transformations actually work is really weird on a power level, but I think this is a good explanation for why Cell comes out the way he does and why he specifically needs these two to attain his perfect form. So yeah, if you guys have any other theories regarding the subject, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll hopefully see you for another Dragon Ball Head Scratcher soon. Bye-bye.